All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andrew Granade, which you do pronounce like the explosive. Easy way to remember it. I teach in the Conservatory of Music, and there I teach musicology. Everyone knows exactly what musicology is. No, everyone knows musicology because evidently Prince put out an album a few years ago called Musicology. Has nothing to do because he called us the Funk Soul Brothers. If you've ever been around people who do music history, which is what musicology is, we're definitely not the Funk Soul Brothers. So what I want to do is give you a brief little bit of bio so you know who I am, where I'm coming from, what I've been doing, and then I want to talk half today about kind of the pedagogical reasons about when I started using blogs and how I've done it. And so in the second half, kind of giving you a couple of tools to show you what I've done and get your feedback and questions that you have about how I've been using this. Because I have not used the Blogger tools. I mean the Blackboard tools, I've used other tools. I'm originally from here, or more specifically from actually right here. It's a very small southern town which looked like this 100 years ago and pretty much still does. About 10,000 people, not much changes there. But since I'm from Arkansas, the first question I always get is, where's the accent? Which doesn't come out that often. There are certain words that when I say or actually write, the southern does come out. The southern in me actually comes out through a variety of things I like, predilections I have, things that kind of help define who I am. And this is where you really begin to see that I do have the southern in me, even though the accent has kind of been acclimated out after a couple of years. So why bring all this up? Why throw up all these words for you to look at? Part of the reason behind the blogging, and part of the reason I see in teaching, is the idea behind community. Because there's something magical about walking into a classroom, especially a classroom you're going to be in for 16 weeks, because you get to know all these other people, hopefully. You get to enter into this newly formed sense of community that we have very intensely for about 16 weeks, and that's about it. You get to basically know the unknown. And this reminds me of a story I heard about an elementary school teacher who needed a break, and so she goes to her class and says, just go do some art. Take some time doing some art, I need a break. So, these kids go over here and they get to modeling clay and they start building things, and these kids over here are getting out the things. And it's this one little girl far in the back corner. She's picking out a crayon, and no one's around her and she's drawing. So the teacher goes over and leans down and says, what are you drawing here? And she goes, well, I'm drawing God. And the teacher looks at her and says, no one knows what God looks like, guys. And she looks back and she says, they will when I get finished drawing him. The sense of knowing the unknown is what we do in our classroom all the time. It also reminds me of my favorite Donald Rumsfeld quote from a briefing he did in 2002. I don't know if y'all have ever seen this. He said, there are known knowns. There are things we know that we know. There are known unknowns. That is to say, there are things we know we don't know. But there are also unknown unknowns. There are things we don't know we don't know. I discovered this quote because there's an art music composer who set this to music, and it's really amazing. It's absolutely fantastic. It's like this little cone that 3 o'clock in the morning you're going to wake up and go, oh my God. It blows your mind. He was, of course, obfuscating for what he was trying not to say in 2002, remember the Iraq War. But it also points, I think, to some kind of truth, that there are all these things that are unknowns for us. And for me, how to create this community, especially in our day and age, was an unknown, and blogging was a way for me to get at that. Our culture is one of compartmentalization. We're all sitting here at our own little desks. We have our little computers. We probably haven't really talked to or even reached out and touched the person next to us. We live in a, but we do. We live in our own little worlds. We get in our little boxes that we drive to work, or we get into our little boxes of offices. I'm supposed to be up here behind the box so that I'm separated from you. We see this especially in music. And I've seen this a lot with the iPod and the growth of the earbud. I don't know if you've been out on campus, especially when it's nice weather, everyone's walking around, and they look like this, right? Everyone is in their own world, and what they're doing is creating their own soundtrack for their life. But it's a soundtrack that we, outside their ear, are not privileged to, right? We're constructing our own world. We see this time and time again. Cell phones, right? How many times have we seen this kind of thing? The baby probably has a cell phone for you to look at and see. We live in proximity to each other. This is true in the classroom. We talked a lot about, over the past day, these social networking sites, Facebook, MySpace. I don't know if any of you are on there. I'm on Facebook. All my students want to be my friends. I don't know what that means, but they all want to be my friends. Actually, I think they want to look at pictures of my children, but that's a whole other story. But if you look at the way that you become friends with someone, it's not that you're usually reaching out to find people you don't know. You're constructing a community of people you already know around interests that you like. And so in many ways, what Facebook and MySpace are doing are not making them more social, more acclimated. It's just they're able to socialize with people just like them elsewhere, not just here. And one of the great things about the classroom is they have to socialize with people they might not usually socialize with. They have to talk to, they have to learn from people that they might not normally have any kind of connection with at all. They have to reach outside themselves, find that known unknown. Because in many ways, I don't know if y'all have ever read C.S. Lewis's The Great Divorce. It's a wonderful book. And in there he describes hell. And his vision of hell is that when we go there, we're all exactly as we are now. But hell is infinite. And so people begin to realize that, you know, I don't like you. And so they begin to move farther and farther and farther out until you're all living without any contact with anyone else. That's his vision of hell. And for me personally, that is what it would be like. And that's in many ways what our technology is doing. So my thought was, how do I get technology to create a community? How do I break through to make some kind of connection? Because we live surrounded by people, but we don't know them. Have y'all experienced this in your classroom? Am I unique in the conservatory? That, I mean, our students are playing music next to each other, and they still don't know each other. They don't know what they like beyond the fact that they're sitting in class with each other. And so blogging was a way for me to get past this, a way to get them to know each other. I really discovered this when I was looking at doing peer review. And so I asked the students to do some peer review, and I literally had several emails from students saying, okay, this is great, you gave me the student's name, I don't know who they are. Our classes are not that big. Conservatory undergraduate classes max out at 25, and they didn't know each other. It also made me think about when I was in graduate school and I was doing a TA-ship. There were 3 of us who were TAs, 2 guys and a girl, and we would get papers back, and they had to write their TA's name so that the TA would grade their test. And we pulled one paper out and it said, "The Girl TA," and so we were just handing over. I get my name misspelled all the time, especially because I usually actually bring in a small little grenade, so it's always that explosive guy or something like that. But music is one of those disciplines that I saw an easy way for us to begin to break down those barriers. And I rag on the iPod and I rag on iTunes, but I actually think in some ways it's an amazing, amazing tool. And one of the ways it's an amazing tool are the idea of playlists. I don't know if you know this feature of iTunes, but you can create a playlist and then you can share that playlist. If you go on iTunes, the music store, at any time, this is from 2 days ago, celebrities now are creating playlists that you can go on and you can find your favorite celebrity and see if you really like them because you'll get to know their musical choices. So there's Paul Rudd and the cast of Watchmen. If y'all were in the YouTube thing this morning. You can go and find out who they are. You can do the same thing with anyone. If you feel free to share your playlist, you can get to know someone. And think about how much we define ourselves by our music, right? Based on the way that people eat and dress, what they drive, you can often make a pretty good guess about what type of music they are going to be listening to. We invest so much of ourselves in our music that it is a fantastic way to get to know someone by their musical choices, what they think about their music, and what they write about their music. And so this is the direction I decided to go, to use music to make connections. So I wanted to show you a short clip. Some of you may have seen this. It went viral about 2 or 3 weeks ago. But it shows this idea of how music can be used to create some kind of connection.
This song says, no matter who you are, no matter where you go in your life, at some point you're going to need somebody to stand by you. Oh yeah, oh my darling, stand by me. No matter who you are, no matter where you go.
Can you hear that okay?
In life, somebody to stand by you. No matter how much money you got, all the friends you got, you gonna need somebody to stand by you. When the night has come and the land is dark and that moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't shed one tear, just as long as your people come and stand by me. And darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Come on, stand by me. Yeah. Oh, when that sky that we look upon, well, she tumble and fall on the mountains, they should crumble into the sea. I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Please stand by me. Stand by me. And darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Please stand by me. Stand by me. Oh, baby, baby. So darling, darling, stand. Oh, stand. Oh, stand. Stand by me. Come on, stand by me. Stand. Oh, won't you stand? Oh, stand. Stand by. Come on, stand by me. When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see, I won't be afraid. I won't be afraid. Not as long as you, yeah, stand by me. Hey, yeah. Thank you, thank you.
So I can't teach without playing music for you somehow. It's just
Did you do this?
no. There's actually a DVD. I'm not going to pull the name of it. It just came out about 2 weeks ago. But he did this with several songs and went around the world and just got musicians from all over collaborating them. It's amazing.
Very impressive.
Yeah, it's amazing. In fact, the story goes that he tells him he was in South Africa and he was doing this, and some guys came up and he had his little iPod Touch, and so he showed them what they had put together so far. And the guy said, "Oh, this is nice, this is nice." They walked away, and he said that his assistant came up to him afterwards and said, "Yeah, those are the main gangsters of the area. Usually they would have taken your iPod and robbed you, but they really liked what you were doing, so they said they got your back." Because if you notice, he mainly, for this one at least, went to street musicians and just kind of all over the world. So.
They just interviewed him on NPR.
Oh, did they interview him on NPR?
Yeah.
It did just, the DVD did just come out about a week ago.
And then came back
and mashed them together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Making Change or something. I can find it and throw it up.
Was that playingforlife.com, that was on your last screen, did that have anything to do with the DVD?
It wasn't. If you go to YouTube and just search Stand By Me, it'll pop up real quick because it was hugely viral about 2 or 3 weeks ago. How I came across it. If it's anything to music, you'll find out quickly that if you're in music, your students email you and go, "Have you seen this? Send." Or if you're on Facebook, all these things. Well, blogging in many ways, for me, has helped create an extension of my classroom. Outside of the class time and the 3 hours I get with them, where they are interacting with each other. And so I want to walk you through the steps that I went through when I was putting this together first about 1.5 years ago, and then show you some of the things that I've changed, but also hopefully most of the successes, some of the failures, most of the successes I've had, and the questions I asked myself as I was doing this. So the first thing I had to do was to choose where I wanted to blog. That to me was kind of the fundamental. I looked at the Blackboard blogging interface 1.5 years ago, which didn't exist. When it came online, when they got it last year, it was a little bit too clunky for what I wanted them to do. And so I went online and I started going through most of the free blogging platforms because I didn't want them to have to pay a dime to be able to do this. I didn't want them to have to host. There are a lot of great blogging platforms you can download, run for free, but you have to host the site. So these are all sites that are hosted elsewhere. First one I looked at was LiveJournal. It's one of the older ones. It's really good for just very straightforward. These are all open source, so they have the freedom to do what they want. And also, if you go to the Blackboard site, I have all of these linked if you want to look at them and explore a little bit further. But LiveJournal is very basic, and so I decided there were a couple more features I wanted, so I decided not LiveJournal. Next, I looked at Xanga, which is probably the smallest, the one that most people probably don't know. Xanga is great because it really is a community. They pop up regularly blogs on their front page, and if you want comments, go to Xanga. You will get tons of comments on your website. So if you really want your students to get a lot of exposure to a smaller community, you can use Xanga. Again, I decided I didn't want that much exposure for them right away. WordPress is the most popular blogging platform today, especially if you're hosting on your own site. WordPress you will see everywhere. It's very flexible, completely open source, so if your students are into writing code and changing code, they can do all those sorts of things. The reason I didn't go with WordPress and ultimately went with Blogger was for one reason alone, and that is because Blogger is hosted by Google. And the reason I did that is because I figured that most of my students have a Google account because Google rules the world, right? And if you talk about YouTube, Gmail, any of the Google Maps, students generally have a Google account. And I didn't want to be perpetuating putting their private information out there, so I figured I would use something they already had, and also it's a very simple interface, something that you can pick up very quickly. In fact, I'm going to show it to you here in just a minute, that they could very quickly start using. So ultimately decided to go with Blogger.
Question.
Yeah.
You said you rejected the Blackboard Blogger.
Mm-hmm.
When you looked at this first, what do you think of it now?
It's still a little bit clunky for me, and mainly because what you get is that white screen no matter what. And one of the things I'll show you as I show you some of the students' blogs is one of the pluses I see in blogging is their creativity just explodes. And so if you look at some of their blogs, what they can do with the design and the templates and all of the things that they do to change it to make it personal, I liked that aspect better because they can express themselves, I think, a little bit better on something like this than they can on Blackboard. What I like to use the blog function for now is the discussion board kind of idea, if I have information to convey. But for them, personally, I still like them to go outside of it. The other thing I like about Blogger also, and using it this way, is you'll see I don't have to worry about archiving it. And so students this semester can go back and look at students the last semester and the previous semester. they are always there, unless those students decide to get rid of them. If you do it in Blogger, it's for that class and that class alone. So it was just, I wanted a more open platform. So once I chose Blogger, I had to set this up. So I'm just going to walk you through very quickly, see if this works. There it goes. Very quickly, just kind of a screen capture to show you how you set these things up. They're very, very easy. Blogger is just blogger.com. So here, we'll start. There you go. Just go to blogger.com. It'll take you right there. You then have two options. If you have a Google account, you just put in your Google account, sign in, and you go. If you don't have a Google account, you just go down to the orange arrow, create your own blog, go over there, and you can use any email you want. It doesn't have to be a Gmail account, so you can just enter whatever one you want. Then click the continue button. If you are using your Google account, you go up to use the create a blog. So that's the screen you'll get if you log in with your Google account. Then pick your domain name, check your availability, see if it's available. If it's not, keep trying until something is. Enter your little words, click continue. Then you get to choose the template. And this is where the students get really creative. If you look, every template has a little circle that you click on. You're not locked into that template forever. You can change it every day if you wanted to. But the nice thing is they give a quick way to put something together. And then it's created. That's it. To post, it looks a lot like the interface if you've used the Blackboard. It's just a type pad. And you'll see it's a little bit smaller amount of stuff to do. You can add images, pull them up from your desktop, throw them in there. You get to choose where you want it, center, left, right, medium, large. Get it off the web, get it off your desktop, however you want to do it. Same thing for video, and for my students, same thing for music. They can just pull music off and stick it on there. A lot of them just use YouTube stuff. As soon as it's there, you just publish it, and it's done. So very easy, very straightforward. I just explained it to you in 2.5 minutes. That's one of the things I liked about Blogger. It was just something that they could, and I put this on the website for them to click through with audio. So they can watch it when they're putting it together. But very, very simple to do. Very, very easy. And I like that aspect of it also. All right, so I have the blogging platform. The next thing to do was to get the conversation going. Get them writing. And this is the place I was like, okay, if you blog, will they come? Usually not. And so what I had to do was decide what I wanted it to function as. This was an auxiliary to the class. The class is a 2-semester music history, music in Western society. The first half goes from the Greco-Roman period up to 1750, which is the death of Bach. May he be sainted forever. After 1750 is the second half, so this class I'm going to show you is the music since 1750. If you know anything about music history, of course, there are the big composers, right? Everyone knows about Mozart. What I wanted to do was to dig beyond, to expose them to music and people they might not have explored. So everyone knows about Mozart. How many of you know about Karl Ditters von Dittersdorf, who was one of the greatest opera composers of Mozart's day? Everyone knew him. No one knows him now. Same thing, everyone knows Ludwig van Beethoven. How many people know Maria Smisnowska? She is the reason that we have Chopin. Her Polish piano style created Chopin, basically. And there are all these figures. Going into the 20th century, everyone knows Elvis, or if you prefer, Las Vegas Elvis. Everyone knows Hound Dog, but how many people know that he actually covered Big Mama Thornton's version of Hound Dog? So why not give the students these chances to explore these composers and singers, and then write about what they're finding? And so what I did was create a huge master list of pieces and composers that I thought that they might enjoy. And for each section, so music history divided into units. For each of our units, I give them a big list and say, go choose one composer. Go pick one piece and listen to it. And read about it, and then write about it. And I give them a couple of things that I want them to hit so that I know that I have something to grade on. So I ask them to, in each blog posting, tell me what it is they're doing, very basic. Give me the composer and the title, and then describe that. So basic description of the work. If it's a symphony, what are the instruments, who maybe originally performed it, all those sorts of things. Just kind of basic so everyone knows, get some basic information they go to read. Their subjective perception of the work. Do they like it? Do they not like it? Why do they like it or not like it? Why it's not typically in the Western musical canon. why is this person or this piece not in our textbook? What about it puts it outside of our textbook? And that gets us into all sorts of interesting questions as they are writing. And then finally, how does this integrate with what we've been talking about in class? I don't tell them beyond this what to write. I say hit these things. But beyond these very broad guidelines, write it however you want. Just write about it. And you get some very interesting reflections. What I then do is I have a whole system of feedback. So I go and I read their blog postings, and then I respond to them. And I chose to respond to them in email and not in the comment section so that it would be private between me and the student. But I tell them, if they have big, glaring grammatical errors, to fix those grammatical errors. I give them ideas to think about, areas I think may look or feel underdeveloped in their writing. Just general feedback that we would give any student on a paper. I just do it electronically. They then go in and update the blog posting, which you can keep track of because I give them a date it has to be posted on, which date is then embedded in their blog. And when they revise it, the date gets revised. So I know that they've gone in and fixed it. So I give them a chance to revise their work.
So the blogs are like short essays you're asking to write and just go through a revision process.
Right. Yeah, I'll show you in just a minute about how long. If they were typed up, they would maybe be a page and a half, 2 pages, double-spaced, if they were in a traditional format. All right. They've written their blog posting. The next question I had was, how do I track this? How do I follow what they're doing? There are a couple of different ideas I toyed with, and I'll show you what I ultimately came down with, which is another reason I like Blogger. First, I looked at the use of an RSS feed reader. Are y'all familiar with an RSS feed reader? What you can do for most blogs is they have a little button that says subscribe to this. And you set up, and the reason they could do this easily is, of course, Google has a feed reader, Google Reader. And what it does is it creates a little message between your reader and that blog. So every time there's a new blog posting, it sends a message and says, hey, this person posted a new blog posting. Here's the first couple sentences. You should go read it. So I toyed with doing that. Ultimately decided I didn't want to do that because, again, the problem was how are they going to find out the blogs in the first place? And so ultimately what I came down with was to create a portal blog. So this is the main page blog that I run, that I manage in Blogger. And as you can see here, I have this blog roll where I list every single student enrolled in the class who is writing, and I just put up their blog so that they have a list online of what the blogs are and links. They're all automatically a hypertext link through Blogger, which I can show you how to do that. It's very, very simple as well. The reason I did this is because it kind of gets me to the next step, and that is the idea of following the conversations. Once they've posted, they've written, they've posted, they've done their revisions, they have one further thing to do, and that is to get to know each other. They have to go and read their students, their fellow colleagues' blogs. And they have to find one that they think the music sounds really interesting, something they did not write on. Then they have to go and listen to that piece of music, do any reading that they might want to do, and post a response on their blog to their fellow students' blog. That make sense? So there are multiple ways that they can do this to try to keep up with it. They can comment to each other, they can do talkbacks, all these different things. But one of the things that I found was originally they kept asking, well, how do I know if someone has responded to me? I want to go read if someone's responded to me so I know I can respond to them again and just keep the conversation going. So let me very quickly show you. I'll just go this way. Kind of how this works. All right, so this is my portal blog. I just gave it the name. 352 is the course number. It's Conservatory 352. So 352 is Blogspot. If you go on, and I can pick on this because I was telling Deanna, is my colleague in the conservatory, this is one of her students. This is her blog. As you can see, they do all sorts of things. They put music, they put comics. There are a couple of things that you can do. You see that she has these, they call them followers. Right here. So she has 4 followers. This is me. I don't know why my picture isn't showing up. But the students, if they want, can, through BlogRoll, become a follower. And that just means you click on that person and you say, I want to follow their blog. Then Victoria from her site can look and see, here is everything that Victoria has been blogging on, including she's titled her responses. So here's her response to this other student named Joshua. She can then come here and click on and read it if she wants. Ooh, did it make it a new tab? Oh, that's annoying. What also will show up when she signs in. So if I sign in here, you'll see I follow all of the students. So when I log in, down here it has the list of all the people I'm following. And this acts as an RSS reader just within the Blogger interface. So I can see when a student. So here you see 1 week ago, Ben C. posted the beginning of his journal. So it's all kind of incestuously interfaced as they're going through here together. If they don't want to do that, they can always just go to the main blog, and over here on the right-hand side in the blog role is the exact same thing. So they can come to this blog at any point and see who's read and when, who's written and when they've written. And they can either link to the full blog or to that specific post. So you can see most of these were done right before finals week, their last entry. Questions about any of this? This was the weirdest thing for me to figure out, is how to follow these things.
Do they, when they set up their blog, do they link to your portal?
I do that. Yeah, what they do is they send me the URL. Yeah. What I tell them is as soon as they have a deadline, into the second week of class, they have to set up their blog. And as soon as they set it up, they send me the URL, and then I set it up here, and I send out then an email to all the students saying, all the blogs are up. If you want to follow any, go follow. But a lot of them just, as you saw, there were only 4 followers. There were 8 students in the class. So half of them chose to do the following aspect. The others just went through the main portal blog. Or they could have done RSS readers. There's no way for me to track that. Other questions about how I put together this? Yeah.
Who outside of the class has access to
everyone?
Oh, that's what I thought.
Yeah. I chose that deliberately. One of the reasons I chose that deliberately was the class is a mixed class. It's undergraduates, but it's also the graduate students who come in and go, whoa, I never had music history. And so they take it as remedial. And I wanted them to be able to engage in the conversation as well if they wanted to. But I also wanted to give the students an idea that they are writing and presenting themselves to the world. So I sometimes share these with other faculty, let them know they can go see what their students are doing in my class, which then again expands the conversation a little bit out. And then also they can go back, say the very first one, they're not sure how they want to write, what it should look at. You can see last spring they didn't have the blog role. That was a new function on Blogger. But they can go, all right, let's go back here and look at, let's look at this blog entry that Karen did last April, a year ago. And they get a sense of what their colleagues in previous years have done, which I also liked that function, that they could learn from each other. We talk so much about we need to model for the students what good papers and things look like. Well, here it's just up for them to see for all times. And as semesters roll on, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. As you can see, as you flip through here, you also see they do all sorts of stuff, throwing up pictures and links. They put in footnotes sometimes. Oh, I got to sign in. Oh, so she has footnotes in here. I mean, it's very, very free to do however you want to be putting these things together. Other questions about how I tracked?
Yeah, what is can you explain the portal blog again?
Yeah. Sure. What I manage, I don't deal with any of their blogs. What I did was I set up this blog, and I put every single student who's enrolled. This is a very small screen. Every student who is enrolled I just link all of their blogs right here. So Ben Cross, Nick Baker, I don't know who this is, they didn't put their name in it, but so this is all the students. So any student at any time can come to this blog. This blog is always here. They can come to this blog to find their colleagues. That's why I call it a portal, because it kind of shows them out.
Anything on the blog side, if you're collecting your students.
What I do, well,
You correspond with them by email.
I correspond by them by email. The only thing I do is once the listening journals are up, I put a short little blurb so that they can, if they're following this in a feed reader, it will shoot out and say, okay, everyone's got their blogs up. And sometimes I put up this little video. Any of you ever heard of Plunder Phonics? It's this composer who takes different things and mashes them together. I'm talking about mashups, except it's not playing. Can y'all hear any of that? So that's Stravinsky's Rite of Spring, but he's mashed up with a bunch of other stuff. Several of the students had written about it, so I just put it up there as kind of an interesting feature for them to kind of, y'all may have not heard of this, highlight some of the blog entries. Does that help? Yeah?
So they go on to BlogSpot, sign up, get a URL, send it to you, and that's how I put it in. Portal.
Yeah,
Can you show it?
I can show you. Yep. Somewhere I'm signed in. Not there. All right. Am I still signed in? Nope. Signs me out. All right. All right, so you see I have 2 classes I do this for, so I have 2 blogs. If you go into settings, no, it must be on the first page. I was right on there. If you just go to this is probably the easiest way to do it. Where's my link? Is this, Internet Explorer. All right, I'll do it this way. Sorry. If you click on Customize, I don't know if you saw that. It's kind of over here in the corner. Can I get over there? It says Customize once you're logged in at the top. What you do is you add page elements. And so if I wanted to add it, there's the followers that I use. What I'm talking about is a blog list. Click on Add a Blog. Gives you the URL, so here I'm going to follow myself. It will now go out, find the blog, and add it there. Add it to the list. Keep adding just however many you want.
So it's add a blog and then add the URL. Is that?
So if I wanted to follow, I don't know if YouTube will add. Yeah, so now I can follow the YouTube blog. And when you just save it, there it is. So then if I come up here and it says page element added, go see the blog, and there it is. Michael Buckley is answering my questions. This is usually, I don't know why I didn't show that earlier. That's the other way you can do it, is to click on the little tool. Everyone see this? And then if I want to get rid of that, or add later, you can do this at any time. Oop, there it goes. And the way I added the pictures is the same thing. I just added the picture.
What freedom do you have in fonts and sets, fonts?
Yeah.
And other things like that. Okay.
You have two views, HTML,
So
compose. So you have
the usual question.
the usual,
I ask,
yeah.
I wouldn't want to do this for a mathematics blog
Because there's no, yep.
Wait.
This is totally, yeah. I use this for writing intensive. I don't think,
Well, I have writing intensive math class, but yeah.
in terms of symbols.
Right.
What you can do, you can cut and paste. And if you cut and paste and ask tell it to keep the formatting, it will keep the formatting.
Okay.
Because students a lot of times, especially when we're talking about German or Russian or anything that has any kind of diacriticals, just cut and paste and the diacriticals will remain.
Okay.
So they could, if they needed to, type it up in Word or whatever they needed to, cut it, paste it, and it would keep the original formatting.
Can anybody log into your blog?
Anyone can see my blog. No one can do this exactly. Only I have access to this.
But how about, let's say somebody just logs into your blog, reads one of your student comments, and wants to respond.
Mm-hmm.
Can they do that?
Yes.
So somebody from just out of the blue can log on and...
In fact, let me go back to the blog because that just happened. The other thing I like about Blogger is when they respond, they can say, "Oh, let me find." I don't think. No, we didn't do it. What Nick could have done here, it said whenever he first mentions Monolescu, who's the student he's responding to, he could have hyperlinked back to her blog, and it would have automatically put a comment in her blog saying, "Hey, this blog over here is talking about you." And she would have automatically known that. But I wanted to pull this up because the very thing you're talking about happened to him just a little while ago. So he got this random comment, and he asked me about this comment, and I said, "Oh," because I followed the person back. This is one of the leading scholars on Harry Partch who happened to read his blog and commented on it. Just completely out of the blue. Because he had linked back somewhere in his blog. I don't even know where it is. Maybe he put footnotes. Yeah. He put this footnote. It linked to that guy's blog. He read about it. He saw it, commented on his blog, so he came over and he read Nick's blog and he commented and said, "Hey, you did a great job. I really enjoyed reading this." So you make all these interesting connections from doing this. Yeah?
What are some things that you've observed in your students different from other classes having utilized this tool?
A couple of things, and I can go ahead and get to my why I do this. A couple of things I've begun to notice about why I do this. First is, they seem to have more control of the conversation. One of the things that I don't like about a discussion board-based thing is that I'm in control, right? It's a top-down. It is me controlling it completely. And even a lot of times the blogging tool on Blackboard. This way, they're in complete control of their own little blog, how they want to do it, what they want it to look like, what they want to write on it. It is totally up to them. Now, they understand that everyone's going to be reading it, but they seem to take more pride in it because it's not like, well, I'm just writing this for Dr. Granade and I'm throwing it to him. It's, I'm writing this for everyone. And I don't know if this expert from the field is going to come read my blog or not. So they take more ownership because they have more control. I've also noticed that there's more participation. And the way I point to this, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Chris, what's his last name? He's editor at Wired, but he came up with this theory called the long tail. This shows up we talk about it in music a lot, because the idea of the long tail is that those things that are frequent are much, much, much more frequent than those things that are infrequent. And so for us in music, the idea of sales is, this is U2, right? Every time they come out with an album or a tour, it sells hugely. The U2s support all these other musicians who sell 1,000, 2,000 copies of their CD and do tiny little club dates because they sell so much it can fund everything else. The problem is, how do you find out about all this stuff in the long tail? So if we're going to think about it in terms of the classroom, who talks the most? Right? I'm going to be talking in a classroom 80 or 90% of the time. I am much more frequent than anything else. The closest student is going to be talking 10, 8, 9, not very much. But what the internet allows, they've talked about this long tail, is that it allows people to come in and have a lot of discussion, a lot of input, so that in the blogging world, suddenly by using this tool, they have a lot more chance to talk than just in the classroom. And I've seen them, the beginning of class, almost every day after the first journals are posted, they're talking about, like, you listen to that? And they're talking about it in class. And so it's spilling out not just what they're writing, but what they're saying in class. So I find there's a lot more student participation and a fuller participation. I've also seen this idea of bifocal learning, right? They're not just learning from me, but a lot of cases they're now learning from each other. And they're sharing recordings. So they listen to a piece of music and they go, no, listen to that recording. Listen to this recording. When their colleagues start coming and following up on their posting, they're saying, yeah, you really need to listen to this person covering that song, not this person. And so they're really learning from each other and talking to each other. And then the final is this idea of creativity. And this is especially key, I think, for our conservatory students. They really want to express themselves in the way they want to express themselves. And the blogs, I put the links to both the blogs. If you go through and just look at some of their pages, they look, once you get to know the students, they look like the students. They very much craft it to look like themselves. So it's a space for them to be themselves within the class, and for the other students to get to know them in that way too. Yeah?
When you designed your portal blog, is that a one-sitting operation? Once you start the process, you have to finish it as opposed to coming back later and finishing it?
Either one.
So you have control over when it's available to the community?
Oh, no. Once it's up, it's up. The availability I have is I can alter it whenever I want. But once you make the blog and the URL exists, it always exists until I choose to go in and destroy it.
Because it's public access.
It's public access. All of you at any time can go and look at it.
So it's a title.
Yeah.
When somebody pulls it up, it's going to be a blank page with a title.
Unless they've chosen a template. If they've already chosen a template, but it won't have anything in it. It won't have anything in it. And you can, the choice is there in Blogger to make it private so that you can invite people. So you can, if you would like to make a private blog, like on Blackboard, you can have that option. And then you have to get the password out. But I wanted to make it fully available.
With it private,
you can later make it
to public domain.
Yes, or you can convert it public to private at any time.
But you can't make it private within Google.
Yeah.
Oh, you can?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If I go over...
Now, when it is private or public, is it entire blog or...
The entire blog. Oh, I'm trying to remember.
If they're all public and you make yours private, that doesn't make theirs private.
No. I only control my blog. They control theirs completely. So you can enable who can read it. So open all readers, but you can restrict it to readers who choose. And if you do that, then you stick in their email addresses and they have to log in and do all that.
No, I wouldn't imagine that, but I wonder if there's any security issues if it's totally public to the whole world. If you tell somebody you're going on vacation next week and my address is
yeah.
kind of thing, I don't know.
That's,
you come across anything like that?
No, most of them are savvy enough about what they put on there. And generally, because I tell them that they can use the blog to add anything, so they'll be adding, oh, I found this great viral video, and they'll throw it up there. But most of them are not putting personal information on this one because they know I'm reading it. And they don't care for me to know what they're doing. So they're not blogging, I was partying all night before the test. Did you get the... Yeah, they're not. That's on their Facebook.
So what's the largest class you've done this with in this way?
The class is restricted to 12.
Is that because of how you teach it, or is that just enough?
That's just what, when it was designed as a writing intensive class, they decided to restrict it to 12. I think because to save me from the amount of grading I have to do with the other projects.
So they have other writing assignments?
They have other reciting, yeah. They do an annotated bibliography. They have other papers that they're writing constantly.
If you were larger than 12, would you start subgrouping it?
For the blog? Probably not, because I like them to go out and explore. And it's easy enough with the portal, the way I set up the reader, to find out what's going on. I can just look at it at one glance, and even if it was 20 or 25. Now, if it was getting up to 50, it would be getting a little bit unyieldy, but I wouldn't want to be grading as much writing for that many students anyway.
How do you grade a blog?
I give them a rubric based on those. So I have those 4 things I want them to talk about, and then I have a rubric talking, and I give them the rubric, and I do it all by email, though. I send them an email saying...
Do you have them grade it with the rubric, or do you grade it?
I've done...
Like they do a self-assessment?
I've done both. And I've had them do peer assessment where they've gone and read each other's blogs and sent emails to each other. It just depends on kind of where they are in the semester. But it's all done by email because I want that to be private. That's all done by email. Usually I just do it as a Word document and email them the Word document so they have it and they can save it and keep it if they want.
How much time does blogging save for you?
Does it save? I don't know that it really saves any time for me. Yeah, no, I think it's about the same amount of grading time as before. Because I'm still reading their papers, I'm still commenting. I'm just typing instead of writing it out by hand. So it's not any more time, for certain. It's not any more time than traditional paper grading. Plus I have a record.
No harm done.
Yeah, no harm, no foul.
To you.
No.
But they seem to be more engaged.
They are much more engaged in doing it this way.
Have any of the right to privacy issues come up with students who have to make it public in that way?
No, they haven't.
Since it's a learning environment.
It hasn't, because I think I make it clear at the beginning when I give them the assignment that this will be open and anyone can come and read it, and to think about that when they're writing. And I also use it as a tool because as musicians,